Sleazy Ilhan Omar was not ready for this one. Partially because this CBS host, Margaret Brennan, who we love to hate, actually asked a real good question to her with all this Somali fraud going on. And one of the reasons she had to ask a real question to her was because just before Ilhan Omar's interview, our boy Scott Besson here was in studio and stated some real disturbing facts about this billion-dollar fraud that went on with these Somalis and where that money is going. It's Sean Daniel here. If you enjoy the Sunday Marathon, make sure you hit that like button or subscribe. Let's hear from Scott about some really disturbing truths of what's going on. Not sure Ilhan's going to be excited about this.
A lot of money has been transferred from the individuals who committed this fraud, including those who donated to the governor, donated to Representative Omar, and donated to A.G. Ellison. But they've been transferred to something called MBSs, and they are wire transfer organizations that are outside the regulated banking system. And that money has gone overseas. And we are tracking that both to the Middle East and to Somalia to see what the uses of that have been. But I can tell you that it's terrible. Representative Omar tried to downplay it. Said, "Oh, it was very it was very tough to know how this money should be used." Yeah. She was gaslighting the American people.
Well, we'll talk to her.
Yeah, but when you come to this country, you got to learn which side of the road to drive on. You got to learn to stop at stop signs, and you got to learn not to defraud the American people.
Well,
right after Scott Besson laid all this down for Margaret Brennan, who probably doesn't fully know that because, hey, it's a liberal scandal, I can't touch that. Ilhan Omar came in studio so she could ask her these real questions about this Somali fraud that she continues to downplay. I wonder why. Maybe, allegedly, possibly, not definitively, maybe there's some benefit coming to her through this. Who knows? Not sure. Just a possibility, an allegation that's been heard out there. Lawyer speak, gotta save myself. And what is with the brown theme going on today? Dirty money, that's what's going on.
And we're joined now by Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Margaret.
We have a lot to get to with you, but I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the secretary himself understands what he's referring to. We obviously had people who were able to donate to our campaign that were involved. We sent that money back a couple years ago. And actually, I was one of the first members of Congress to send a letter to the Secretary of Ag asking them to look into what I thought was a reprehensible fraud that was occurring within the program.
So this was, just for our audience, the Biden-era Justice Department called it the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country. And this was pocketing COVID-era welfare funds, more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was stolen. It was pretty shocking. Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
We know nobody's pissed off that money has been stolen and sent back to Somalia. You're telling me that most of the families that are able to immigrate to Somalia and still have family members back home, and they're able to earn a U.S. salary, they're able to live all together in these big houses or in the apartment complexes, you're telling me they're not sending that money back to Somalia on their own, and then they hear a news story about all this money that's been stolen from the U.S. government, and it's getting sent back to Somalia, you're telling me they're not cheering? Because once it gets there, they can do whatever they want with it. And who knows if there's a possible way for the money back home to eventually sneak its way back to someone that we might call, if you see the money going back, you might go, oh my God. You guys see what I'm saying? But even the Somali residents that are now coming to the United States, they don't identify themselves as American. A lot of them speak Somalian to each other. And we've had representatives like her other one saying that we fight for the people of Somalia, not for America. So, no, I do not buy, Miss Ilhan, that all you guys are so frustrated that money got sent back to Somalia from the U.S. government. That's literally most of the immigrants' plans anyway. Make some money in the U.S., even get on some refugee welfare program, send some of that money back. I'm imagining that's a big plan they have.
Do you think, though, that there was a failure by the Democratic state government to police itself? This is a brazen, fraudulent activity here.
Yeah, and that is what I alluded to in my letter that I'd sent to the Secretary of Eg, was to see where things were going wrong. How can this amount of money disappear fraudulently without there being alarms being set off? And it is something that, we have to continue to investigate. We have to continue to ask those questions.
Because, as you know, one of the initial defenses by the organization at the heart of the fraud, Feeding Our Future, was to claim the probe was due to racism. Do you think that this was all about negligence, or that it was like political fear of alienating the Somali community?
So you have to remember.
Ooh, you got to catch what she just said. You got to catch what she just said. They were claiming the probe and investigation into this that allegedly was going to happen before. They backed them off with the claim of racism. No, what are you? You're targeting the Somali community. The same crap that Ilhan Omar has been spewing about ICE agents going in. They're just targeting Somalis. It's the same thing they try to do to back people off. And it was used to defraud the government of $1 billion. Oh, no. Oh, we're just Somalian. Quit being racist to Somalis. Why are you looking into us? Wow.
Was all about negligence, or that it was like political fear of alienating the Somali community?
So you have to remember that the woman who led the program is a Caucasian woman. And that was her way of making sure that this would continue to happen by using whatever rhetoric that was available to her. We do know that when the money was stopped, they did sue. The AG, Attorney General Keith Ellison, defended the department in that lawsuit. It was a judge that said it should continue, that money should continue to go out. And so this wasn't something that people were not looking at. There was always those alarms, and we will continue to understand where things might have gone wrong as these investigations continue and as these fraudsters are prosecuted and sent to jail.
What she should ask her is, do you agree that the Somali government should investigate where this money has gone now that it's possibly getting sent back home? That's the easiest question you could ask right there that would make a viral clip for all of us and put her in a little corner. Will she demand that her government looks into that money? Margaret, I almost cursed there. It's that easy.
Well, it's going to have impact for your community, because we've already heard that the head of Medicare and Medicaid say they're going to have a new policy that applies to Minnesota. You heard the Treasury Secretary say they're investigating. But there's another thread here, because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment, because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system in not figuring that out and basically charging them with these charges. And so I do know that for many years, this sort of like alarm that there is money being transferred through the airport in bags and going to terrorism that accusation has always existed. There's never been here and there in those accusations. But if that is the case, if money from U.S. tax dollars is being sent to help with terrorism in Somalia, we want to know.
Yeah.
And we want those people prosecuted. And we want to make sure that that doesn't ever happen again.
Why wouldn't they want that to happen? Because if Somalia gets put on the blacklist, with Trump wanting to do this permanent suspension for third world immigration to the United States, that means that all these other family members that possibly want to come to the United States because their family has gotten a green card, a citizenship, that means all these people won't be able to continue to come because these family members, these Somalis, have this plan. Okay, once I get there, I imagine, just like a lot of people would, I want to keep bringing my family. She does not want there to be, in my opinion, a blacklist on Somalia because so many people will be too pissed that they can't come to the U.S. And if they find there's some link in terrorism, that would screw that up. I doubt that they have this moral worry about terrorism in the United States or money being sent to terrorism. I don't know if that's a main concern of hers.
So there are 80,000 people of Somali descent in your state, but the president has been very focused, not just on them, but on you. In this extraordinary cabinet meeting, he said Somalis, quote, come from hell. They complain and they do nothing but bitch. Take a listen.
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That knocking is vehement agreement from his cabinet members there. I just wonder what the reaction is in your district to have that from the highest office in the land.
It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. These are Americans that he is calling garbage. And we feel like there is an unhealthy obsession that he has on the Somali community and an unhealthy and creepy obsession that he has with me. I think it is also really important for us to remember that this kind of hateful rhetoric and this level of dehumanizing can lead to dangerous actions by people who listen to the president.
And 95% of the Somalis in your state are U.S. citizens.
Yes.
Just for clarity there.
Oh, man. Look at this face. Look at this face.
They do nothing but bitch. Take a listen.
Let's go back to her face. Look at her face. Oh. Oh, it was so worth it just to have that 2 seconds, even though what she's saying is stupid. We can be mad at the way that Somalis don't integrate into the U.S. society, and they identify themselves as Somalis, and they're loyal to the Somali government. We can be mad at that, and she's not going to acknowledge it. Who cares? But look at this face.
Please, quote, come from hell.
After
they complain and they do nothing but bitch. Take a listen.
Oh, that was so worth that made my day.
But the president has restricted all immigration processing, including asylum claims from Somalis already on U.S. soil, along with 18 other countries. ICE reports it has rounded up about 19 people, and they put out press releases with the images of about 5 of them that they say are the worst of the worst. Is that the entirety of the crackdown to date?
Yeah, so far we know of the people that they've picked up in Minnesota. About 5 of them are Somalis. And from what I have read and from the people that I've spoken to, all of them had already had orders of removal. So these are not people who are undocumented, but people who have committed crimes and who should have already been sent out of the country.
It doesn't look like there's going to be that many illegals among the Somali community because they've all come over with these refugee programs. It's not like they came through the border, crossed, had a court hearing where they had to go hear their asylum case, and then they got heard. No, A lot of these people have had refugee status through different ways, not just crossing like the Mexican border illegally. They've got it from back home. They've got it through family members who have already gotten there. Then the other family member gets established with the green card, with the citizenship, and then they come over. So it's not this big illegal crackdown. It's more of a legal migration that's happened through these refugee statuses. But the frustrating part is that they don't integrate into the community.
I want to ask you about something else that the architect of the president's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, said. On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." What do you make of this argument of failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America? How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me, yes, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany. And you know, as we know, there have been many immigrants who've tried to come to the United States who've turned back, one of them being Jewish immigrants. We know the way that people were described who were coming from Ireland, Irish immigrants. We know the way in which people were described back then when they were Italian immigrants. And to me, you know, we're yes, of course, ethnically Somali. We are in this country as Americans.
Yeah.
We are citizens. We are productive part of this nation, and we will continue to be.
The worst part was that Margaret Brennan phrased it to her so softly. How can you possibly understand this? Well, Margaret, your idiotic self has obviously never been to any of these communities, or never have you left in a long time. Your white picket fence, beautiful community and neighborhood in D.C., because if you just went a little bit outside of that, instead of sitting in your studio, going from your home to your CBS studio, then to your gym, then to your kids' high-end school, maybe if you went outside of that and went actually just a little bit to some of these immigrant communities, you would see a lot of them don't speak English. They don't really identify as American. They bring everything from their third world to the United States. So they don't really want to emigrate and become Americans. They just want the benefits of America while bringing their whole culture, tradition, and way of life to this first world country. But Margaret Brennan, the lady who is in charge, one of the ladies that is in charge of sharing information and perspectives on what's going on in the United States and spreading that around the world, she has not gone anywhere near reality. And that's the sad part, because when you travel a lot like I have, you meet people outside the U.S. that only get their perspective of what's going on in the United States from people like Margaret Brennan who have no perspective on what's going on because they live in a bubble. And so then you have this cumulative idea of what the United States is, the racism and the atmosphere in the United States, or the rhetoric coming from someone like her about Somalis and everything. It comes from somebody who has no real experience, no real insight into what's really going on. They're both shameful. It's Sean Daniel here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to continue the Sunday marathon and watching another liberal getting owned, check out this video right here, and I'll see you there.